Hi, my name is Simple from Multiverse Manifestations. Today I'm going to talk about divorce and the process of the in-home situations with children and the emotional parts of healing and getting back on your feet. Um, the first thing my lawyer said to me when I went to file for divorce is that divorce is the nearest thing to death, the feelings of death, because something inside of you is dying. You're losing your family, you're losing um your ability to be a parent to your children 24/7 whenever you got the access to. You're losing your spouse, and it's going to change up a lot of things in your life. And I started learning a lot, especially my son was 3 years old when me and his father split up. And it was tough. It was tough. And I was going through it. And one day my sister and I was hanging out. And I was talking bad about his dad, like just talking about how he wasn't doing right. You know, talking negative stuff in front of the kid and not thinking that a 3-year-old was listening. And me and my sister was talking about it. I was consoling, trying to let her know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, my 3-year-old just jumps into the conversation and says, "But mommy, he's my dad." And from there, my sister looked at me and she shook her head and said, "No." And I want to tell you guys, both mother and father of who's going through a divorce of children, never talk about the other parent, negatively around the children. It's crazy. If a 3-year-old understood what I was saying and tried to correct me about their parent, just imagine the big ones when they listen to you. It's a big impact in their lives. And that from that day on, I never spoke about his father in front of him. I always put positivity about his dad. And even when he came back from his father's, I asked him, "Hey, what did you and daddy do?" And he would tell me. And he felt like it was a safe space to come to his mom and tell me what him and his daddy did. So it's not a good thing to talk about the other parent in front of your children, because when your children sees that, they're not going to come to you. You're not going to be their safe space to let you know what's going on with them, what happens when they go to their other parent. And regardless of what happens, if you hear something negative, do not fight with the other parent in front of the child. You speak about it in a healthy manner. Do not let any of that affect the children. And this was early on in the divorce, maybe 3-4 months in, so he was just a little kid. And from that there, I said no more. And I sat with my ex-husband and told him the same thing. I said, please don't talk nothing in front of him about what we're going through. I want our child to have a normal life. I want him to know that he's loved by both parents, and that we were not going to fight in front of him. And we made that promise until this day. My son is going to be 15 next week. And to this day, we never talk negative about each other. We praise each other as parents to our son. And it's just good co-parenting, healthy co-parenting. And it's very important that the children know they have nothing to do with us not being a family. There was even a time where my son was 5, 6, and all he wanted was his dad in the house. And we had to just sit him down and said, "Mommy and Daddy are best friends, and that's all that we can be." And he understood. He understood what best friends were, because we used to tell him about best friends in school. So we told him we're best friends and we're doing what's right for him, and Daddy's always busy and working. So you have to create a great scenario for your children so they won't have, it's not creating a lie, but I did tell my son that mommy and daddy cannot be together anymore. We're just best friends, and we know that. So you have to make sure that they understand, because he was so upset why his daddy couldn't come and live with us. And vice versa, when he would go to his house, he didn't understand why neither of us were living in each other's houses. And we used to praise him and tell him he has 2 houses, 2 bedrooms, 2 of everything that he basically had. And we made sure it was a positive influence for him to understand that we're providing not only all the materialistic things that every child should have when a parent wants to have children, but that he was loved, that he was wanted, that he is needed between the 2 of us. And that grew a great relationship up till this day. Me and my ex, we have great co-parenting relationships. We don't fight about our kids. We don't do all that crazy stuff. We both wanted our son, and it didn't work out for us, but what we cherished the most was our child. And that's the most important thing after the marriage is over, is that the children gets everything that we promised to give them when we were together. That's the only thing that changed, is that we removed ourselves from the home, but we do not remove ourselves as parents to these children. It is very important that they come first, regardless of what you 2 are going through. This is why it's very important. I met so many people. My divorce took me 10 years, and I was on dating sites dating divorced men with children, and they were all depressed. Every one of them. They were all depressed, and I was telling them how I treat my ex-husband after the divorce with my child, because we had already spoken that if anything ever happened, that we were never going to be together again, that whatever children we had, this is before kids, whatever children we had, we were going to provide and show them love. And we kept that promise. We get into our bitter mood, people get into their bitter moods, and they forget that children were involved, and they use them as pawns. They use them to do all kinds of stuff, and all kinds of psychological things happens to these kids because of bitter parents, and it's not fair. Again, I met so many dads who were single, who had children, and they were depressed. They were depressed because they couldn't get to see their kids. They couldn't, certain things. We have to be able to compromise. That's the most important thing. And always, when you're compromising, it's not about you and the other parent. It's always about the children. What's more important for them? Always think about them. Divorce is mind-boggling, and it's an emotional roller coaster, because sometimes we don't want to go through it because of restarting with finances and all that stuff. But if I tell you it's worth it, if you're not happy with someone, it is worth it to lose a couple dollars than to lose your time, your health, and your insanity. Is very important, because I've seen people stay in marriages they have no business being in anymore, and they're getting sick. They're doing things that out of their mind. They're not doing anything with their lives, and they're just stuck there. And being stuck is not healthy. Moving is healthier. The one that hurts the most is actually the one that's more a safer space than sitting and not doing nothing. So I like to tell people to keep going in the direction that makes you happy, because again, it comes back to the children. Would you want your children to accept being unhappy in an unhappy marriage? For the fathers out there, would you want to see your daughter be with a man that's making her miserable, treating her like crap, but he makes a lot of money? Tell me if that's safe for you. For the mothers, would you like a woman taking advantage of your son, his money, and doing her own thing when your son's hardworking? No, we wouldn't want that, right? So why are we setting that example for our children? Why would we put up with that? If we put up with it, guess what? Our kids are going to be putting up with it, and nobody's going to be happy. We are supposed to instill in our children happiness and acceptance and being loved and what love is. And this is what I always tell people. If you're unhappy in a marriage, get rid of it. The children will be okay. The children will be okay. Mine, very good. He's a teenager. He's got an attitude. Every teenager has attitudes. That's fine. But as far as everything we promised as parents to provide for our children, that should never stop because we stop loving each other. That should never be the end goal, to use our children as pawns to hurt each other. Never. So this is what I'm bringing up about divorces. It's important to make sure that their mental sanity is on point, because whatever we're giving them, whatever we're teaching them, whatever we're showing them is okay, is what they're going to continue to do. And I see it so many times with other moms that aren't letting their children see their fathers. I've seen it so many times. And these kids are grown now. I have friends who have children in their 20s. I didn't have my son early, but I have friends who have their children in their 20s and they're in messed up relationships. So it's all constructive of what they see in front of them, what is taught in front of them, what is taught to accept in front of them. And also when you're going through a divorce, the next thing I don't like about going through a divorce is that if you have parents who are not in, just because they're married doesn't mean they have a healthy relationship. I wouldn't go to parents per se for relationship advice, because not everybody's advice is healthy ones. To them is a beneficial benefits of their child being happy, or what they think is happy. Even when I was going through my divorce, my dad wanted me to stay with my ex-husband because he provided financial security. The love wasn't there. Money was there for sure. I would get a check every week in my bank account, in a joint account, to pay the bills. It was always there for sure. Direct deposit. Where was the love? I was always crying at home. A whole wife at home and no husband to play a wife for. So, again, happiness before anything. I survived it, even though my divorce was 10 years. It took 10 years. I survived it, and everything that I said I was going to do when I got into this marriage, I ended up doing outside of the marriage after splitting up with my ex-husband. And I started my own company like I had told him when we first met. And then I started this company that I have now with the manifestations. And I've been just doing better because I want better for myself, and I wanted to grow, and I wanted to provide for my son. I don't want to be one of those parents that have to depend on my children in my old age. So I made sure that my bag is secure for my children when I am old, that they don't have to go out into their pockets to make sure I'm taken care of. And that's how we're all supposed to think. Our children are not supposed to be slaves to us when we get older. We're supposed to provide for them. We wanted them here. So this is what we're supposed to do for our children. They're not supposed to have our burdens. They're not supposed to carry our cross. And this is very important. This is why I keep bringing it up to a lot of my male single friends who are parents. To, if you're not happy, do what you have to do to make sure you see your kids. Go to court. File for that child support so you can put in for child support so you will have the right to see your children. I am big on men going after women who are holding back the children from their parent, the other parent. It's always been a lifelong thing. I've seen family members heartbroken because they couldn't see their children and they did nothing against the person. And that's where I made my promise. I was a teenager when I saw it, and it broke my heart. And ever since that, I've been learning and I've been teaching men all over that if you want to see your children, you take that person to court. Do not sit there and say, she won't let me see the kid. No. Go and fight for your children. Be an example for them. It's important. This is more important for those who are going through divorces